Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Telecast TV. You're watching a conversation with Bwala, the presidential spokesman, speaking, defending his boss, President Bwala Tinubu, about the ongoing critics and crisis in Nigeria, spoken by his former boss, Atiku Abubakar. He spoke extensively and denied all allegations and claims that President Bwala Tinubu is not working. He spoke extensively, saying that since President Bwala came into power, that there has been power, and the power, which is light, has been constant more than the time we had in 2015. And he called out those people fighting the government of President Bwala Tinubu that they are power seekers, and he defended his boss. And remember to watch this video to the end. Please subscribe. Don't miss trending videos. Drop your comment, drop your opinion.
So, after two high-profile interviews on this program, where Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar, leading contenders within the ADC, delivered scathing critiques of the current administration, the response has arrived. One called it the worst government ever. The other painted a picture of deepening hardship and national decline. Now, one of the men tasked with defending the record of Bola Tinubu steps forward. Bwala, presidential spokesman and former ally of Atiku Abubakar, invokes the principle of the right of reply. But this is more than just a rebuttal. It is a direct clash of narratives: opposition versus government, criticism versus defense, perception versus performance. So tonight we ask, is the government being unfairly attacked, or are these criticisms a reflection of a deeper reality Nigerians are already living?
This government came in, removed subsidy, said because they don't want to, they were borrowing to service it, removed subsidy in petroleum, subsidy in electricity, and that the resources they will save will be used in development. And they turned around, charged and borrowed more money. When Buhari came in, our borrowing was 13 trillion, about 13 trillion. When he left, it was 87 trillion. Today, charge we are hitting 200 trillion without anything to show for it. Subsidy is removed, both in petroleum and power, and yet we've borrowed more. Our budgets are not financed. Charge the entire 2025 budget, capital project, the contractors are being owed. If they had borrowed to do something, at least the government promised one thing: power. If I don't give you power, don't vote for me. If they had borrowed all this money and put it in power, we'll say okay. But I can tell you, from 2015 to date, no new plant have been commissioned and in process of being commissioned by the APC government. As president, I will be talking to the people.
Right.
We want the president to talk to us. Let him, when he was campaigning, it was him saying about the promise to give power. He shouldn't be asking somebody to come and apologize when he didn't deliver what they promised.
Bola has been a very bad president, to be honest with you.
How so?
Because I didn't expect that from him, you know, in the way he governs the country, whether economically or otherwise. It's a disappointment.
If you were to get the ticket, you will run up against an incumbent with what some say is a formidable political machine. What is your concrete strategy to defeat President Tinubu, not just politically, but structurally?
But why would I sit down and then start discussing about my political strategy at this forum?
That's a strategy that you're going to have to employ.
For all what I know, is that a coalition candidate facing Bwala Tinubu is dead on arrival.
Right, but those are just, I mean, it's almost like a slogan, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's not a slogan, but it's a fact. I mean, look at the leadership of the coalition. If each and every one of them will bring their zone, to electoral victory, where will Bwala stand?
Right. Well, let me put it another way, since you don't want to share your strategy for unseating him. What is the one thing President Tinubu is doing today that you would immediately reverse if you became president?
Everything is wrong with President Tinubu.
So you'd basically sweep everything aside?
Everything is wrong with President Tinubu. I mean, honestly, perhaps in my life, this is the worst administration I have seen in this country.
Again, as I said, that's just a broad term.
Yeah. I feel terribly disappointed. I feel terribly disappointed.
That's the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, and before him, the former Governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi. Well, for the administration's right of reply, I'm joined now in the studio by the lawyer and special advisor to President Tinubu on media and communication, Daniel Bwala. Good to see you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
Now you've invoked the right of reply, which is your right, after strong criticisms from Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar. But let me ask you this. Are they wrong, or are they simply saying out loud what many Nigerians are already feeling today?
I think that they are merely marketing themselves because they are both interested in the seat that President Bola Tinubu is occupying. I only have one worry. It's like more than half of my time has been used to talk about what they said. And when you add it to the one they did and to the one I'll reply, sadly, I may not have all of the time. But let me tell you this. They are wrong, with respect. At least with respect to Atiku Abubakar, because he came close in 2023. He started by saying, my former boss, and with respect, that a coalition candidate, President Bola Tinubu, is dead on arrival. And when you ask the question, that's probably a slogan. I think it is, because Buba Galadima re-echoed the same when he said, if you bring a corpse to the election day, that the corpse would defeat President Bola Tinubu. But unfortunately, the 4 corpses in their camp have all been defeated by President Bola Tinubu. President Bola Tinubu became a president today. He won that election on a merit. Take a journey from one of the corpses, Rotimi Amechi, in the primaries when the odds were against President Bola Tinubu. And Rotimi Amechi was favored by a lot of people around President Buhari. President Tinubu defeated him with a landslide margin. Coming to the general election, the odds were also not in favor of President Bola Tinubu. I campaigned for Atiku, so I can have a degree of idea that I can put on the table in relation to everything. President Bola Tinubu defeated my former boss Atiku. He defeated Peter Obi, defeated Konkoso. So you see, if you count the 4 corpses, he has actually defeated them when the odds were against him. How much more now? So I have a belief that, remember, when Atiku gave a run for the money, Atiku had a good number of governors who are leaders of their states with structures, and there was a momentum at the time in favor of the opposition because there was the belief that APC has outlived its usefulness. Now, having defeated them in that, now most, if not all, of the governors and the states and the structures that he had then are now with President Bola Tinubu. What makes you think on the day of election, President Bola Tinubu will even care to look at the scoreboard?
Well, their argument is not to look at them as individuals or people who are politically ambitious, because they clearly are, and you're right in that sense. Their argument is to look at the Nigerian people, that the ultimate determinant of an election is or ought to be the Nigerian people.
Right.
So if the figures aren't fiddled, that's their argument, and the vote of the Nigerian people is respected and counts, that vote will defeat President Tinubu. That's their argument. What specifically do you say they got wrong potentially in that argument? Is the administration suffering from a perception problem or a performance problem?
It has more to do with the perception problem, but even the perception is shaped by social media as regards the fundamentals on ground, right? Because in social media, you can never defeat the obedient. I mean, there seem to be numerous, countless Trojans there. But it has been proven that social media is not a true reflection of reality. Now, but they have been here. You've interviewed them. You have asked them questions on facts and figures and fundamentals. They have not been able to successfully debunk our claim, not to talk of advance their cost. So, for example, they don't know. There are two sides to the issue. The fact that Nigerians are angry, if at all they are, with the president or the government, is not a sufficient proof that Nigerians will vote them. Because to vote you on what basis? That they are angry with us or that you have a better alternative. They have not been able till today, I pause, to be able to express that better alternative that they have. And with respect to my former boss, you even asked him the question about his strategy. And he said, why will I sit here and talk about my strategy? I have heard similar things from Peter Obi too. When you asked him security question, he said he keeps security to his chest. Do you have to? You see, discussing a strategy and implementation, point of action, are two different things. We are talking about your vision for Nigeria, your goal for Nigeria. Why you believe that this path President Tinubu is leading is not the path that is expected of Nigeria. But let me jump to Peter Obi. He said they were going to remove subsidy. And they did remove, as if he did not say he was going to remove subsidy. As if Alhaji Atiku Abubakar didn't say he was going to remove subsidy. But I don't want to say that Peter Obi was not in Nigeria. But he asked, where is the proceed of the subsidy? So I'm here to answer him correctly, succinctly, and carefully. Anambra, where he hails from, the governor has enjoyed increased revenue. That is why the governor has taken care of the medical environment in Anambra, that they didn't have to go on strike like they did when Peter Obi was the governor. If you look at the infrastructure in Anambra now, it's much more better than when Peter Obi was in power. Why? Because that governor enjoyed increased revenue, and that revenue is a product, a byproduct of the fuel subsidy that we removed. Now, the governor is also paying salaries and is not departing. That is because of the policy of President Tinubu. But we go beyond that to look at infrastructure all across Nigeria, including Anambra, where he comes from. That is where the money is. I believe he may not be aware of Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road. It is the proceed. What about 1 million Nigerians who ordinarily would not have had the opportunity to go to schools? Right now, they are in tertiary institutions because they are beneficiaries of the NEL Fund program. Has he probably called one or two persons from his locality and asked, is there anybody in my local government that has benefited from cesarean section or from dialysis, 50% subsidy of dialysis?
Let me just come in here,
Right.
Because you've obviously spoken quite a lot. I mean, their argument has been that it's not just the issue. In fact, the problem in Nigeria is that too many people, we're graduating too many graduates, and they don't have any jobs.
Yeah.
So they're going to university. The quality of education is very low, and we're graduating them and not providing them with jobs. So that's a big potential problem.
But if that is his point, that is a fallacy. The reason is because these same people he felt were product of poor education are the ones that are working in Dubai as doctors, as engineers. They are working in the United Kingdom and in the US, trained in Nigeria from quote unquote what you call the poor education. The people are not suffering because of over education. It's because there is no economic activities in the country enough to create the environment for them to thrive. Government can never be the major employer of labor.
Yeah, but government has to
creates the
stimulate the environment. And if that environment is not producing jobs, who do we blame?
No, so that is the policy. The policy we are implementing is working. That is why you see investors are coming back to Nigeria. You see small and medium enterprises rising. You see businesses expanding, and they are creating the jobs that is required. So the problem is, I think he has I don't know how to put it. But having more people educated is better than not having them
Right.
educated
Well,
because you think that is not job for them to have.
one of the key issues raised by Peter Obi in that interview is electricity.
Right.
And that's arguably the backbone of any modern economy.
Right.
After more than a decade of APC governments, can you point to a clear, measurable increase in power generation and distribution capacity in this country?
Well, in terms of generation and distribution, there are parts of the country where you see that improvement. I mean, in the FCT, you don't have light problem. Probably people complain about the money, probably the tariff or the rate at which they pay the money.
Well, there is a light problem. I mean, we're in the FCT now.
Yeah, but where are you from?
There are
like
a lot of,
where I stay, which is in the suburb.
Well, I mean,
where
you
I
work,
stay in the
you
suburb,
work for the government.
I mean, I'm not in the suburb. Government is not there.
Who knows what chums you've got?
So, but what I'm saying with respect to power, you have seen first, you have to create the legislative environment. That we have done, which now gave rise to the capacity of states, local government, and even the private sector to participate in both generation and distribution of power. That's the foundation, the baseline. Probably Peter Obi doesn't know it has to be first.
As you know, Daniel, Nigerians are not measuring promises.
Right.
What they're measuring is hours of electricity.
Right.
Are they getting more power today than they were in 2015 or 2023?
I don't think that comparison of 2015 or 2023 is the issue, because if you talk about...
Well, it is the issue.
But if it is the issue, Nigerians have more power now than 2015.
Well, look, during
The
the
stats are there. People can
can I
fact-check
just make something?
Right.
Let me bring something to your attention. During the campaign, President Tinubu, well, actually, Mr. Tinubu at the time,
Right.
made a very direct promise.
Right.
If I don't give you constant electricity in 4 years, don't vote for me when I come back for a second term. Nearly 4 years on, has he delivered on that promise?
Nigerians will vote when the time comes, and I'm coming.
I'm asking you a straightforward question. It's not a matter of whether Nigerians will vote or not. Very straightforward. If I don't give you constant electricity, in fact, hold on a second. Can we just hear that clip, please?
Whichever way, by all means necessary, you must have electricity. And you will not pay for estimated bill anymore. A promise made will be a promise kept. If I couldn't keep the promise and I come back for second term, don't vote for me.
What's your reaction to that?
He hasn't come for second term yet. And I have told you the progress. No, I have told you the progress we have made. First, legislative framework. Secondly, recently he signed an order for reform in that power sector.
Do you know how long it takes for power to take effect?
No, don't worry.
What I'm saying is that we're now in April.
Yeah.
The elections are going to be taking place in January.
Right.
Are we going to have the promise that he made fulfilled by that time?
What I'm telling you, and I think that you are changing, or you want me to refresh my answer.
I'm just asking you questions.
I am saying you asked us to wait and you play the tape and want me to react to the tape.
Yeah.
And I'm saying we have not come to the second time when Nigerians will decide whether he has made that promise available for them to vote for him or not.
Is it difficult for you to defend this? But you can be honest.
No. I mean, okay, I'm coming. Did he say in the third year, if you don't see electricity, don't vote? But Nigerians don't have the capacity to vote now. There will be a voting time.
Right.
But the progress we have made in the power sector, like I've told you, is that one, we were able to lay the foundation for a legislative framework. Two, we have gone beyond that because there are different parts of Nigeria where people are generating and distributing the electricity. Three, the fundamental problem confronting the power sector, which has been bills not paid over the time. You see, you have to create any investment opportunity or any business without return on investment will discourage investors. Power sector in Nigeria has been one of those businesses or sectors where people were reluctant to invest because they can see there are so many people who have invested and monies were not paid. He has taken the initiative to ensure that these people's monies
You
are
see,
paid.
Daniel, I understand the point you're making, and the points you're making are very reasonable. But from the point of view of the ordinary person on the street in Nigeria, he made a promise. If I don't give you constant electricity, adequate electricity, don't vote for me for a second term.
Right.
Now, there could have been things that got in the way, obviously. I mean, that's, we can't be unreasonable.
Yeah.
There are things that get in the way, but as far as that promise is concerned, he has not fulfilled it.
And
has
I
he?
am saying this your question should have been deferred to the election time when
like
Nigerians will vote. And then you
Okay.
ask me,
Okay,
Daniel,
we'll
should
defer
they
it.
more than
We'll
one?
defer
I
it.
want the opposition, Peter Obi and Alhaji Atiku
We'll-
Abubakar,
we'll-
so many issues that they raise.
We'll defer
so
it to
can be
election time. But let me ask you this: at what point do you think Nigerians should stop waiting and stop listening to very articulate, slick spokesmen like yourself and start holding the government accountable for results?
And to be honest, if Nigerians are not, we have to be thankful to Nigerians because they are participatory in the governance affairs of this country. That's why we see their various interventions and their various expressions on all platforms, both mainstream and social media. And Nigerians, you see, I think that people look at Nigerians differently because when you talk about policies and we tell you the policies implemented for which there are beneficiaries, it seems the conversation suggests that those who are benefited are not Nigerians. When we talk about infrastructure laid in different parts of Nigeria, where everybody in Nigeria is buying that road, some people give the impression that the Nigeria they are referring to exists somewhere in the atmosphere. I mean, somewhere in the stratosphere. When we talk about reform policies, do you know that Nigeria today, April report of IMF suggests the projection for Nigeria's growth over the United Kingdom, over the United States, Germany, and South Africa?
Yeah, but developing countries tend to grow at a faster rate than established economies. It doesn't mean that you're producing more. It doesn't mean...
So you develop based on...
No, what I'm saying is that...
Do you develop on conjecture?
No. What I'm saying is that the developed economies have got their systems all in place. That's why the economy moves much slower.
Right.
It might grow at 0.5%, 1%. It's an economy like Nigeria or many others that grow at a much more geometric progression. That is why when you don't measure Nigeria's economic development against that of the United States, you measure it against other developing countries.
So we are leading in most major countries of Africa. And the question I want to ask you is, this projection, this report, is it a progress for Nigeria or not?
You mean the IMF?
The fact that,
yes. We've heard from the IMF. We've even heard from the World Bank as well, which has said very positive things about Nigeria.
So if it is a progress, then it is because of the policies of President Bwala Tinubu.
Anyway, look, let me ask you something else that is quite crucial, which I'm sure you know, because you mentioned power, and you correctly said that country can't really.
But you don't want to talk about Atiku and Peter Obi because that was what I thought.
No, because
there are so many issues that need to be.
That's what I'm saying. Another issue they raised was insecurity. I mean, we've seen continued attacks.
No, they say we wanted to make it a one-party state,
which
is fundamental.
We're gonna. That's a different. I mean, they talked about different things. Security is one of them. Growing concern, even internationally, about the security situation in Nigeria. Do you accept their contention that security has deteriorated under this government?
I do not. And I think that the Minister of Defense was on your show just a few days ago, where he gallantly and most profoundly lay out the security progress that we've made. And he told you that we're winning the war. Now,
well, saying that they're winning the war is quite different from actually winning the war.
Every election cycle, on the eve of election, because in your report, before we started the talking, they talked about security alertness because of the plan for prison break. Remember, just before 2023 election, we had similar thing. Any eve of election, usually there is multiplied crime in the country, some of which are terrorism, some are banditry, but generally the crisis economy. The most important thing is, what is the government doing about it? And I'm sure that in the last 8-9 months or even more, this president has been traveling all over the world, establishing deeper cooperation and partnership for the purposes of boosting our security capacity to deal with that. We were in Turkey, and you see discussion around production of hardwares. You see discussion about training on how to manage these hardwares. We were in England. You saw the conversation around increasing and deepening security ties with the United Kingdom. The most important thing in every organization is not just that there is a problem. What is the attitude of the leader towards finding solution to the problem? But if I ask you, these guys would respect these candidates or aspirants, what have they said all this time about security alternative to what we're doing?
Well, one of the things.
What role have they played
Yeah.
in ensuring that the Nigerian people are not plunged into deeper problem, other than to feed off of their misery for political end?
Well, I mean, the honest truth is that I'm not a spokesman for them. But one of the things that they've pointed out, that a lot of Nigerians have pointed out, is what appears to be a lack of empathy on the part of this government for people who are victims of insecurity on a daily basis. And that is not just coming from them, it's also coming from places where there's been active insecurity in this country. But let me move on, because we're running out of time, because one of the things you wanted to talk about was the democratic space,
which is what is their agenda at the moment to get the sympathy
well,
of
let me
the
ask you the
international
question.
community.
Let me ask you the question first. Peter Obi accused this government of shrinking the democratic space. Atiku Abubakar says this is the worst government Nigeria has ever seen in that regard. Are these political exaggerations, or do they reflect deeper institutional concerns in this country?
It is not just that it is political exaggeration and also the fallacy of generalization. It is also the expression of ineptitude and lack of deeper understanding of the situation. Or the fourth one, which is using it for political reason in order to get the sympathy. Why? Because one, Peter Obi is the most undemocratic element that I have known since 1999. All of the places where Peter Obi has moved to, he never wanted any democratic primaries. He wanted a party that would adopt him singularly as the candidate of the party. When his party, Labour, had a crisis and he was required as a leader to participate in finding a solution to the problem, he ran away. He always runs from responsibility. I will take you that part of responsibility to show that. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, my former leader, I think the issue that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has is like somebody who has been successful over the years, has played football, and now is retiring. So the father time is what I worry about Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, because he has democratic credentials since the rise of democracy in Nigeria to suggest that he has been participating. Now, father time is terrible, because father time takes away the glory of your prime. If you are not careful, father time can undo everything you have done. We see that in football, where a player is supposed to retire at a certain time. He insists he wants to play with the club. They start benching him, and from starting to bench him, then you find out that he's no longer relevant in that field. That is what is happening. But let me draw the two of them and put them on responsibility. You see, what they are suffering from is the lack of responsibility in developing what? An opposition. No opposition in any country of the world is developed by self-centeredness or selfishness. Every one of them wants to be a president. So they have not been able to have one good meeting in which they will agree on anything. And I want to predict
well,
to you today.
I think you're jumping the gun.
No. I will predict
because they
today.
haven't quite got to that stage yet.
But I predicted 6 months they will be in crisis, and they are. I want to give you another prediction. Peter
well,
Obi,
they believe you're inducing the crisis.
No.
But that's
how?
a different story.
Peter Obi is not even going to run in that platform. Mark it, and then we'll come back to it. But my point is, look at the life and times and effort of President Bola Tinubu. Since 1999, this man refused to participate in the election. Refused to run for office, and was busy building opposition, in which he even granted Alhaji Atiku Abubakar the opportunity to come and run on that platform. He ensured that these same states that were taken away from him, he not only reclaimed them, but expand the broad base of his political ideology. And then he reached out to the other parts of Nigeria, and he has a strong, formidable. By 2015, they were ready. You could see that. You could feel it. You could smell it. Now, contrary to this one is a congregation of desperate people wanting to collect power. And we can spend time here, and I'll prove it to you. Rotimi Amechi was defeated in the primaries, refused to participate in the election, even though he remained APC. So it's all about him and not the Nigerian people.
Right.
Peter Obi, Peter Obi he's a nomadic politician. He's the MVP of nomadic politics.
Well, you made that point just a minute
So he's
ago.
jumping every now and then to everywhere he will get the ticket. He has never cared about the Nigerian people. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar watched under his nose all the governors taken away from him. So because you all were not able to manage your situation, you see, the sheep will, he say, he making me to lie down in green pasture. These governors that they had as structures are the ones that have come to Asiwaju. How can you see the progress Asiwaju is making and say there is a stifling
Anyway,
of
look,
opposition in Nigeria?
we unfortunately we're out of time, so I can't really get into that
I
heavily.
had 3 minutes, and they both have one hour.
hold on.
Everyone,
They didn't have
you're
1 hour.
supposed to give me 2 hours.
Now, let me ask you one final question before we go. You've talked about Atiku Abubakar as your boss, your former
boss, yeah, and I still respect
You
him.
were once aligned with him. Now you're defending the Tinubu administration. What changed? Your convictions or your political calculations?
I have answered that, I think.
I know, but I want you to answer it again because Atiku appeared on this program and you're here critiquing.
And he appeared for once. I have answered that. What in law we have what we call asked and answered. But let me even tell you this. From Atiku to Peter Obi to Rotimi Amechi and all of them, is that the first party they are running from? Do you know how many parties Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has changed? Have you asked him what changed? Peter Obi was here. He jumped from ABGA to PDP to Labour.
I asked them.
You asked him what has changed.
That's one of the reasons why you're bringing it up.
So when you asked them, what did they say?
I'm asking you.
So what did they say?
Never mind what they
How
said.
can I not mind? You called me to react to them. What did they say?
But you watched the program. You alerted me to the fact that you
Asked
watched
and
the
answered.
program. So my question to you is, what's changed? Is it your convictions or your political calculation?
Both convictions, political calculation, and the need to push Nigeria forward.
Okay. On that note, I want to thank you very much indeed. I apologize that we don't have more time, but I think
that is a proof that
I think you've put
governing
your
party
points,
that are suffering and not the opposition. They have 1 + 1, 2 hours, and we.
I think you've put your points very well.
Thank you,
and
sir.
Nobody can take that away from you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much indeed.
Appreciate
Daniel Bwala is, of course, a lawyer and special advisor to President Tinubu on media and policy.